Panicking for a big man. Thought I wasn't coming.
You ain't find no
Good morning. Welcome to Junkanoo 242. You are on the clock. It is Saturday, March 5th. We are here in bright living colors. A special good morning to everybody in our family of islands. Special good morning to you who are all tuned in. Special good morning to our Facebook viewers. Thank you for tuning in to the E-Shack. This is Junkanoo 242, the most consistent, longest running cultural show in the Bahamas. Arlene, how you doing?
Wonderful. Good morning.
Arlene, how you like this breeze, man? I know you can't take no costume out, but you can work in the shack in this, man.
Absolutely. I love it. And it ain't gonna last long. So by the time as we blink, it'll be hot again. So I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Chairman, how you doing, man?
See, all is well. What you mean you can't take no costume out in this breeze?
But you trying to fly like kite?
Big man. Are you sure that ain't 15 knots out there?
No, it ain't high. It's a nice little cool breeze.
I threw some leaves in the sky before, but they came out this morning. They just fluttered. They didn't go fast.
It depends on where you take your measurement from. If you in the inner part of the island, you straight. But if you by the water, where you got to go between buildings, and that breeze could get trapped, then what happen?
Well, don't worry. You say if. That's a conjunction. That didn't happen.
This boy went to school.
Good morning, folks. Again, you're tuning in to Junkanoo 242. Before the show go any further down the hill, Arlene, would you get us started with our prayer, please?
Absolutely. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, for the gift of life, we give you thanks. For our nation, we pray for peace, prosperity, and principle, recovery, and restoration. And for ourselves, we pray for wisdom to use your gifts wisely, especially the gift of Junkanoo, so that we may honor you, serve your people, build better communities, a better Bahamas, and a better world. Amen.
Amen. Proud to be Bahamian. What y'all got this morning? What's up?
Give it to me straight.
You always say, give it to me straight. What does that mean?
That means give it to me straight. How you mean what it means?
Oh, that's give it to me directly.
Yes.
Or directly.
No, directly means not right now.
Hold on. Directly. Oh, I can get to you directly.
Yes.
That means wait a minute.
Right.
So that's not the same as directly.
No, that's what it was supposed to be before we put our twist on it.
Give it to me directly. That's my proud to be Bahamian movement. The beautiful language of the Bahamas.
Amen. That's a good bailout.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a good one.
I know I'm a bailout.
Oh yeah, you can bail right out, Bella.
Tina says on Facebook, thank you for the bailout, Auntie.
Well, I go ahead, Darren.
We still have yet to spell this word bueno. That dawned on me this week.
Yeah. You know, Dr. Nicolette Bethel made an interesting point when we talked about people spelling it B-E-Y. Remember her comment was that is how some people pronounce it. And that is how I guess the next generation is pronouncing it. But we sticking by our story, which is that the pronunciation is boy.
Right.
I'm inclined to go with B-U-H-Y.
B-U-H-Y.
Yeah.
And then that brings up another point though. Like as we progress, right?
Yes.
will our dialect change the way that we spell words? You understand what
Now,
I'm asking?
hmm?
Do you understand what I'm asking?
No, but I think we need, since we are our own guests this morning, I think we need to hold that until the first break because that is quite a discussion. It's not what we're supposed to be discussing, but I want to tackle it anyway.
Let's go then. See, bail out again. Bail out again, Darren. See?
Even though that ain't what we talking, when we come back, we can talk. I won't comment on that because we have to do a whole series on education.
Yes.
Folks, we're running into our first break. when we get back, we will be having Bahamian logistics, conversations, and literature. Stay tuned at Junkanoo 242. We'll be right back.
Boy, y'all don't know how to behave now. Y'all ain't nobody. Okay, let me find it on Facebook now. You know, I always have a challenge. What you scared of?
Grammy, if I tip off the police and somebody find out,
Ain't nobody gonna find out. Crime Stoppers ain't the police. They just does works with the police.
same difference.
No, boy, with Crime Stoppers, you say, when you call their number, it miss the Bahamas altogether and go directly to Miami or Toronto, Canada. Ain't nobody gonna know your voice or that you named Bertram or that you live down the alley.
Grammy, you realize you IDing me right now?
Boy, I raise no criminal. If you see what going down, call Crime Stoppers. They get no personal info. They just give you a PIN number.
So how you know so much about them?
How you think your uncle get a Fox Hill?
You serious?
If he won't be canned, I able to turn him in.
So uncle know you was a snitch?
Crime Stoppers ain't never gonna tell nobody. And for top info, they just give you cash.
You get paid and all?
You eating good, right? The light's still on, eh?
Grammy,
Wait your man up. Stop the crime before it's your time. Huh?
Call 328-TIPS or from the Family Islands 242-300-TIPS.
This public service announcement was brought to you by Crime Stoppers in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
From the Junkanoo archives on the Junkanoo timeline, the year was 1991. On the parade, a new Junkanoo group, the Roots Junkanoo Group, debuted. Most of its members, formerly of the Valley Boys, were now on their own. Against the backdrop of the groups with one leader, Roots opted for four leaders: Quentin Barabbas Woodside, Paul Knowles, Peter Turnquest, and Les Johnson, who would be assisted by a committee. The debut of Roots in the Morning, 1991. Another exciting notch on the Junkanoo timeline.
Who in the morning? Roots in the morning. Roots.
That was an exciting morning.
That's what I'm talking about. Do you remember it?
Very vaguely, yes, very vaguely. What I remember most, and I'm not sure if this was their first time out, I don't think so. I remember their Hollywood presentation. That was stunning.
That was spectacular.
Yeah, Joyriding with the Stars. Man, look here. That's one of those memorable mornings you never forget.
You know, and it's so interesting because I think every group has had at least one parade, at least one, where, like you said, that's memorable and goes down as a classic.
Yeah. And before we get into that, because that's another topic that can take us off our what's supposed to be scheduled. I can see where this show is a real hodgepodge of discussion on different things. But I just wanted, we were so busy talking nonsense during the Proud to be Bahamian moment. I forgot to say, I really want to congratulate all of those Bahamians who answered the call from the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture to be a part of the National Cultural Commission. And I do wish them well, and I trust that out of the deliberations and the commitment on the part of so many Bahamians who are passionate about their culture, I do hope that we will see some meaningful changes and some meaningful progress in the weeks and months ahead.
Why is this commission important in your eyes?
About, 2022? Maybe about 15, maybe even as long as 15 years ago, I sat on what was called the Cultural Development Commission that was chaired by Winston Saunders and Charles Scott. And we had begun to do some work, and I don't think anything ever came out of it. I applaud the excitement, the enthusiasm, the commitment of Magistrate Carolyn Vogt Evans, who is the chairman. I do not believe that she will allow these efforts to lapse. And so I guess me personally, at the end of the day, I would really like to see a commitment to culture on the part of our country. I would like to see something in writing that says exactly what we believe culture is, what we why it is important to protect and preserve it, and exactly how we are going to do that. Beyond the obvious interpretations of culture that deal with mostly performance, what we do on Bay Street, what we put on the stage, I'm talking about a deeper understanding of our culture. We losing it on
the
Bay
stage.
Street, and that ain't where we losing it.
It's in the ground.
You see Ronald Sims there. If we say if somebody comes, you always talk about what would happen if somebody gave Junkanoo $1 million. If somebody walked in here now and said to Ronald Sims, I need a Bahamian review to go around the world. It got to be top notch, and you will do this, this, and this. He'll have that put together in less than an hour of first class, international standards, Bahamians who can meet that criteria. That ain't our problem. Our problem is what we are eating every day, how we are talking, how we are speaking every day. You know how many Bahamians think that the Bahamas was celebrating Black History Month? And we are a sovereign nation. We are a sovereign nation when the 85% of our population is Black. Every month is Black History Month. We do not need to put a month aside like Black Americans because they are in the minority. But you know how many Bahamians don't know the difference?
What you mean they thought we were celebrating Black History Month?
Darren, you can see the comments right on Facebook. Do you know how many people just identify? And I'm not saying, listen now, you will get a lot of information during Black History Month, and I soak up all that information. Most of it has to do with the achievements of Black Americans.
Right.
But there's still something that we can learn. But the point I'm making is a lot of our people cannot tell the difference. It's just like Thanksgiving, which is an American holiday, has nothing to do with us, and we embrace it like it belongs. Is sometimes we can't find the boundary between the United States and the Bahamas.
I have a question, Arlene. I don't know if you guys have already developed one, or what is the mandate of that National Cultural Commission? Because our producer's about to get on the mic and say, this is not the first commission. This probably in the first paperwork to be written, and we need to execute some stuff. So my question is, what is the mandate of this cultural commission, or what should we expect to see from them?
And those are questions those are questions to be answered formally by the chair.
Okay.
And I do hope that we can extend an invitation to her to join us to answer the very questions that you posed. Yes, these are only my personal opinions, but we would certainly love to invite who herself is a Junkanoo. In her own right, she is a Junkanoo legend. She has been honored several times in the Junkanoo community. And so she would be a perfect guest. Yes.
We need to set that up to tell our person who is in charge of booking, guests for our show that, that's probably a show he needs to look into. Not
Right
calling
away.
any names to the
No.
person, but he knows exactly who he is. Yes.
I can get to you all directly. See, I've learned. Don't worry with me. I may not write. I may not look like I paid attention. I on top of things.
Back to your initial question.
Directly now. Directly.
Back to your initial question to Arlene. Do you think what was your question? Do you think our words or our speech
Yes.
is going
What
to
did
change?
you ask me?
Following up on our discussion, boy, as
Yeah.
opposed to bay.
Yeah.
My question was, do you think that over time, as our accents develop, I would say evolve,
Yeah.
the way we spell words will change?
Yeah. Now I could answer that two ways.
They're only giving you two opportunities.
Sorry.
They're only giving you two opportunities to answer two ways.
Okay. Daniel, I'll use as an example. Daniel Webster decided that he was going to basically change the English language for his new country of the United States of America. And
Okay.
so he published his Webster's Dictionary. And as we know, British spellings and American spellings are very different. And so he decided not to complicate matters and to take out all of those letters that cause us a problem. So the Americans spell neighbor without the U, and they spell theater ER, and we spell it RE. Right. And so he did all of this tweaking. That's the Americans. So I say that to say they decided they were going to adjust the English language in a way that suited them. Now, in the Bahamas, we have Standard English and Bahamian English. And when I'm feeling really disgusting, I say our third language is bad English. And that, of course, is what we are speaking when we think we speak in Standard English and we japping it right up. And so I don't want to call no name, but that's when you hear somebody reporting on the radio or on the news, and this person would have this and this person would have that. And I'm shouting at my TV and saying they would have, but what? They would have, if what? That's conditional. It's not that you should not be saying that in that context. That's bad grammar. But of course, they think it sounds good, so they keep saying this.
That's when the contuberance hit the
the perpendicular hit the contuberance. And so I would simply say this, Darren. I would like us to recognize that Bahamian English is not bad English. It's a language with a structure. It's embracing African grammar with English words. And we must give it the sense of pride. We must be proud of it and not let anybody denigrate us via our language by telling us we speak bad English. I've heard people on Facebook call it slang. They call it broken English. They call it all kinds of things. And so knowledge is power. And hopefully some of these things we'll be able to get this information out. Because see, for me, the ideal thing is for you to engage the teaching, to engage Bahamian English with the teaching of Standard English. But when I tried to do it, most of the teachers were not from the Bahamas and there was no textbook about our language. You following me? But if our children, most of our children, I would say more than 50%, and I'm putting that very low just to be polite, most of our children come into the classrooms with English as their second language. They are not reinforced with Standard English in their homes or in their communities. And so you got to teach Standard English the way you teach a foreign language. They have to translate. As a teacher, they tell you, take the children from where they are. You can't start over here if your children down here. You take the children from where they are. And in my mind, that means starting with the language they came into the classroom with, and then you show them the parallels as you are teaching them standard English. So see, you getting me started now on something we're supposed to be discussing at all.
Discussing this. But then, my question also is, are we or have we been conditioned, I guess you've said it, to think that what we have is not what is acceptable?
Of course.
And that goes right back to, I guess, slavery. You know what I mean?
Of course.
It came from us, so it's worthless.
It's just like Junkanoo. Just like Junkanoo, anything with an African root. But Ronald, I would have asked you what you thought earlier, but I was too busy talking.
What I have found, Arlene, and I have invited a number of English professors, if you like, to sit with me and talk about that word health. Ain't nobody want to take it on. It seems like everybody's scared to tackle that and tell people the truth. That word health is so wrong, it's ridiculous.
Be scared of jail.
You could have gone to government high school.
Mm-hmm.
You been or you ain't been?
Who, me?
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been, you wouldn't have gone because you've been.
Yeah.
People use that today like it's such proper English, and they're so proud of that statement. I would have gone to Agnes Church when I was a little boy. You been to Agnes Church when you was a little boy. What you mean you would have gone?
Yeah. You would have gone if what? That mean you didn't go.
That's what it means. You didn't do it. But that seemed to be the catchphrase of the day.
Yes, Lord. It's so irritating. Truly, it's irritating.
And it's been done from the educated to the dumb and stupid.
Ooh, it's rough. Ronald, let me tell you, the only thing that grates on my nerve more than that, well, there's plenty of them, but let me just tell you this one. This is why it's so important for us to be knowledgeable, right? Our national anthem was written by the late Timothy Gibson, okay? Somebody put on Facebook, somebody had printed the words. I can't remember the context of the discussion, okay? Though the weather hide, no S, the wide and treacherous shoal, till the road you've trod lead, no S, unto our God. In English, I'm not an English major. I sound intelligent, but don't ask me to go no deeper than this. It is the subjunctive case, and it is correct. And you will have these people standing up singing the anthem beautifully, the most beautiful voices. And they will put those S's on there. And what really almost insulted me was when somebody said on Facebook that the late Timothy Gibson should have had a proofreader. I think they said proofreader. They didn't say spell check. They said proofreader. And I was absolutely horrified for several reasons. Timothy Gibson was a man with an impeccable and flawless command of the English language. That's number one. Number two, tell me what we look like in the Bahamas if almost 50 years later, we can be singing our national anthem wrong. Common sense should have told you to research that.
But you see, that's a part of the problem, Arlene. We allow people to make these mistakes and they are not corrected, so it becomes the norm.
Well, I sure corrected that one.
Check them. We just let them every day. I would have gone this, I would have been this, I would have done that. And we just let them go on with it and accept it, so it becomes the norm for everybody else.
Yes.
Because the Prime Minister said it, it is right. Because the Minister of Education said it, it is right. It becomes right by their standards, so it's right.
Yeah.
And we continue to make fools of ourselves when we speak it.
Truly, it's most most irritating. And so anyhow, I don't know how this Darren Bastian get us down this road talking talking language this morning. He know how to pull my chain
See,
to get me in where I'm supposed to be.
we in the design team like mode now, man. We in chopper mode now. So we
We in chopper mode.
We take it, we can put on the banner.
Darren, we would have been here last year.
That means we ain't been here.
That mean- we would have had a parade of champions last year like we had it.
Now you hear how stupid that really sounds.
Hey, Ronald. Like my late dear friend used to say, the wise will understand.
And the fools have no need to know. Jackson Logan Burnside, he always said that the wise will understand and the fools have no need to know.
Man, don't worry about that, man. The wise will understand.
Boy, it's rough. Yeah, but hopefully, this the whole business of our language, and we have so many experts. This is just a conversation in passing because we don't have that expertise. But the University of the Bahamas has so many linguists, and hopefully these things will be sorted out as time moves on. And let me jump right in here, since you're all over the place and look like you all ain't got no topic this morning. I just want to also thank Dr. Nicolette Bethel. Her course at the University of the Bahamas on Junkanoo, really, she has done some phenomenal work and dissecting and breaking Junkanoo down in ways that you never even thought of. And so I want to say congratulations to her for this trailblazing initiative that she has undertaken to introduce a course on Junkanoo at the University of the Bahamas. I think for us it is a proud moment, and I congratulate all of the students who have signed up to be a part of this historic first course on Junkanoo.
Very good. Very
And
good.
see, we have to, while this show is not an English show, this show is a cultural show.
Yeah.
Right?
The longest running
cultural show in the country. And those of us who know better ought to attack and tackle these issues as they come about.
Yeah.
How many words have we lost to this new Trinidadian dialect everybody practicing around here? Down the road and all of this foolishness.
Nonsense.
Well, since you asked me to comment on it, Ronald, to answer your question, Darren, I think we are in danger of losing some of our dialect and some of the words of the way we speak is because we've jumped around and we said it a bit, whereas we have not actively done a study on culture itself. First, to identify those uniquenesses and also to highlight them. And so with that, some of the things that we're seeing being eroded is because we have not put any focus on it. One of the things that, like Arlene said about it being taught, is that I always say that you teach what you value. And we see what is not being taught, and it tells you how much we do not value it. You understand? When it comes to Bahamian culture, we could, quote unquote, like Arlene said, we could put on a good show on the stage, but the question always remains, how are you duplicating those people who are on the stage? And that is the crisis that we're in as we edge toward 50. In every aspect of culture in this country, when you look to musicians, playwrights, Junkanoo, anything you could think about culture, quote unquote, when the era of these people, quote, when they go off the scene, have we put in the infrastructure to duplicate those efforts, to duplicate those people who want to write plays from a Bahamian outlook, to duplicate the people that want to paint from a Bahamian landscape, to do artistry and value what we have because it is great enough and it has value. And that's the thing that I would say is that we have not put in the infrastructure to study it, to highlight it, but also most importantly, preserve it and develop it. That's one of our Achilles' heel.
And a part of the preservation of that is to stop it. We got to spell check it.
Yes.
You see, we just let it go on continually, and we don't stop it. We don't make the correction. We don't tell the children, no, we don't do it like that. And so they adopt all of these things, and it becomes the norm for them.
Very true, Ronald.
And that is one of the things that we are hoping to tackle in the education council, because it's all about knowledge. And like Darren said, it has to be a deliberate,
intentional, yes.
And it has to be intentional. There has to be a program. There has to be a program. How many of our children know how to make guava duff in the traditional way? We are talking food, we're talking sloop sailing, we are talking across the spectrum of our culture. How many of our children could go in the bush and pick out love vine or pick out sage? These are the things that we want to preserve. And so, yeah, we got that on our list. It has to be deliberate. You got to find the masters in those areas, and then you have to apprentice younger Bahamians to them. It has to be intentional.
And that is
if you ain't got no pillowcase, you can't make no guava duff.
You see, but that is what we have not been doing. That is what we have not been doing. We blame children, but me, you, Arlene, the rest of us, we have not passed it on to those children. So we can't really blame those children for not knowing it. We didn't pass it on.
Yeah.
We didn't take them in the bush and show them what is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
We didn't teach them how to make guava duff in the pillowcase. Don't blame them.
Yes.
We're responsible for this mess the world in.
You are correct. You are correct, Ronald.
Well, Ronald, that is exactly, as we talk about each of us having a specialty, that is exactly why I started Educulture, because every child who comes through Educulture will understand how Junkanoo started, and that it's more to it than a parade and a competition. That is exactly why I started Educulture, to reach the children with the full story of who he is.
Boy, y'all hot this morning. Y'all hot this morning.
Y'all ain't get to the topic yet.
Darren, Bastian, come right here.
Jump aboard, man. We trying to carry the big bus.
If you ain't know what you carry the bay, now you get Jeff, my brother.
I hear we may have parade, but let's go, man.
Well, folks, we actually...
No, in December, we would have had a parade.
Folks, I just want to tell the Bahamian public, we actually do have a topic for this morning, all right? But that was our snippet of Bahamian linguist, culture, and conversations. We're running into our first break. We're going to be right back. We're going to jump into our topic. As soon as we come back off the break, you're tuned in to Junkanoo 242, the longest running, most consistent cultural show in the Bahamas. We'll be right back.
You hear on this radio station is governed by IRCA's Code of Practice for Content Regulation. The Code of Practice covers matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, such as local content, news, current affairs, and programs for children, advertising, including political advertisements, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting in the Bahamas. The code also covers aspects such as access services for the hearing and visually impaired, and the procedure for lodging a complaint about anything broadcast by this station. The code is available on the IRCA website at www.ircabahamas.ps. To receive a copy of the code by mail or in person, you may telephone IRCA at 242-393-0234. Family Island dialing is toll-free at 1-242-300-8722. Or you may send a request by email to info@irkabahamas.bs.
From the Junkanoo Library, filed under D for drum. One of the few, perhaps one of the only physical items that accompanied enslaved Africans on the Middle Passage may have been a goatskin drum, which was used to keep the time on deck while the slaves were forced to exercise daily. Yet, in traditional African ceremonies, the goatskin drum had the power to summon the spirits to appear, the power to articulate their messages, and the power to send them back. Could it be that the power of the drum did much to sustain them in their darkest hours in ways far beyond what the Europeans realized? Our Junkanoo, deeply rooted, and we are so proud of it.
Welcome back to Junkanoo 242, the whistle blow, and we're all lined up. Hey, it's time for our first lap. Hey, if the blue is still in you, you better get your costume on. We going down bay. We are discussing the topic. I don't know how these people get me sidetracked this morning. Even the producer ain't even want me to get to the topic. The topic of this show, all right?
It's supposed to be.
Yeah. I'm just warning y'all that we might go a different direction again. However, the topic of this show is competition. Competition. We have alluded to it over the past few weeks. Even all of our discussions, we talk about how competition is good, bad, the ugly, indifferent. The topic is this: competition, more harmful than beneficial. That is the topic for today. Now, Arlene, what I'm going to want you to do, in the best English version that you can, I want you to frame this topic for us in which angle that we're taking this from. Because that Bastian guy, he like to throw us curve balls and stuff like that. We don't want him jumping around the place. We want to stay in one particular arena as we go into place.
Well, oh Lord, let me see now what you put me on the spot here. Okay, let's talk about competition.
Yes.
And just to say very quickly, that Junkanoo was not always competition. Junkanoo has always been resistance. We have always been making a statement with Junkanoo, okay? From the earliest days when we were categorized as animals, our ceremonies said that no, we can't be animals because animals don't have ceremonies. So Junkanoo started as resistance, and it has always been that. Even when it moved off the plantations to Bay Street and to the townships, just the fact that we occupy Bay Street, which has always been the symbol of white particularly financial domination, economic domination in the Bahamas, we ceremonially take over the main street of the town twice a year. This us now. Mm-hmm. Do something about it. Okay, so it has always been resistance, and it has not always been a parade. From what I remember reading, it started to move into town right around 1900 on the street. Well, before that, because the Street Nuisances Act, which limited the time we were to be on Bay Street, was passed in 1899. When the Americans started to come here to drink liquor in the 1920s, the government saw it as an opportunity to entertain the tourists. And so they were offering prizes in the 20s. Okay. And that continued. And then, of course, you got the Burma Road riot, and the street parading was banned until 1947, when the Masquerade Committee, private citizens got together, asked the government to let it come back. And they basically structured the Junkanoo parades as we know them today. They decided that the primary material would be paper, that they would emphasize the paper, which was uniquely Bahamian, the fringe, excuse me. And so from 1948, we have competition being offered. Okay. Now, there has always been, let me see how to put this. The parades have always allowed for people who did not want to compete to be out there.
Yes.
What I call the true spirit of Junkanoo. Man, grab that newspaper, we going to party. This is what we call scrap. Okay? No rules, no competition, no, we just going to celebrate Junkanoo, celebrate ourselves. And so that has always been there. What we have seen over the years as the formal groups have increased, we have seen those numbers dwindling because it has become increasingly difficult for them to get on the route as the parades become more and more structured. And so in my mind, this is Arlene talking, I always see this tension between Junkanoo, the celebration, Junkanoo, the spirit of the people of the Bahamas, and Junkanoo, the competition. And so to me, we continue to struggle to balance those two things. And I believe right now in the Bahamas, the competition and the parade is winning. I believe that the spirit of Junkanoo, you don't see that as much as you see the formal competition. So I don't know if I framed it the way you want me to, but so my question would be, as you all start to talk about, is competition more harmful than beneficial to Junkanoo? I would make the distinction. Are you talking about Junkanoo, or are you talking about the parades, Junkanoo, the parades? In my mind, they are two very, very different things. So I don't know if I made it better or worse.
Here's a question for you, Arlene. When we restructured in the 1990s and we wrote about the categories, did that do, in retrospect, did that do us more harm than good? Because that really solidified the competition. We took the scrap groups and we put them in a category and started calling them fun.
A division. We put them in a division.
And then we started allotting prize monies for them. So we created scrap from freedom and fun to competition.
Yes. In I think it was in 1998 was when we introduced the A division and the B division. Now remember, before that, all the adult groups were in the adult group category. We separated that to give the smaller groups an opportunity to compete on a more even field. And so in 1988, we introduced A division, B division, and then, as you say, we also introduced all of these different categories within the division. And so now it was possible to win best after this, best after that. And you are absolutely right. The structure started to get tighter.
And at the same time, we created the fun division that put the pigs in it and this one in it and the next one and all those fun groups. So we created that competition to our own detriment.
Right, exactly. And then remember now, the other thing also was the timing. Because remember, I have the records, I would have to check. But remember, there was a time when we didn't allow scrap on the road till 6 o'clock in the morning. And we did all these things that just made the controls tighter and tighter and made it. I think Mitzi Chipman, when she was our guest, had talked about this. She had lamented the fact that it was so difficult for people who just wanted to be out there to have fun. It was just so difficult for them to do that.
Yeah, we essentially squeezed out the fun people.
Yeah.
We actually squeezed out through Junkanoo from a Junkanoo parade.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely right. Absolutely. And so, as we talk about the competition in a modern context, I believe that there is good. It's a debatable. Excuse me. It's a debatable topic because I personally see good and bad on both sides.
But the question now is, have we gone too far now to turn around? Will this new generation, who only know Junkanoo as it is, will they allow us to go back to that time? Yeah.
No, see, because Ronald, before we get to that point, Arlene, I agree with you. There is some good and some bad. I think at this stage where it is now, it has done more harm. I think, as Ronald alluded to, that we have gone too far, quote unquote. It has not been, the competition has not been what I like to call bridled. It has not been properly constricted. There's nothing wrong with competition, and we know that. And when it comes to, being pushed by somebody else because you're competing, and regardless of skill level or what talent that it is, when you have somebody that you know that is there, you're competing against, you tend to do a little bit more. But why I say it's become unbridled is because there's been competition now to the point, but there has been no information behind it. You spoke about the early beginnings of Junkanoo and how it started as a resistance to being the minority in the voting structure of a country that was led by predominantly white. So this was your showpiece. This was how you showed resistance. Now, when you look at, that has now been taken away. You're now the majority. Okay, whereas you can go to the voting polls, and so you don't have to, quote unquote, show that same resistance through the parade. And so now this is where it came into, in my opinion, whereas, okay, cool. So what did they start to go to Bay Street for? And now you would have Junkanoo being used as a protest when they did in the riots, the Burma Road riots. Also when they rushed to Government House for that another thing being used in there. But on the parades, that resistance was not the same thing because they were now not the minority. They were now the majority. Why I say it went unbridled is because now you introduce these prizes and this competition, and it just started to flow. It just started to go. And it was nothing ever to say, in this competition, here's what we would like to see more of or what we would like to keep. So it just went out of hand. As we see today, some of the unique features that make our festival unique, we're just seeing them being eroded and slowly going to extinct because the competition has been highlighted as more important. That's the harmful part of it. To just touch on Ronald's point on if we have gone too far, yes, and can we, would the generation allow us to change it? I don't think it's up to them. I think the people who understand the value of this, it's up to them. Because if we don't change it, that same generation is going to say, what did you guys do to preserve it or to show us the value of it? Can it change? Yes.
I see. That's a lot. That's a lot to absorb. I agree too that it can change, but first of all, let's identify what do we want to change and what do we want to change it to. When you talk about it can change, what can change? What do we really want to change about Junkanoo today?
Or do we need to define and have a collective position on what it is? Because I think a lot of us still don't appreciate what it is.
Absolutely. And Ronald, we have sat in numerous conclaves and all of this, and they never get to the meat of the matter. It's always profile and show and speech after speech, and we never come out of those conclaves with any resolutions, with any determinations about the way forward.
And that might have been intentional.
I give you one. I'd give you one of the things that what I say, why I say it's been harmful. Every Saturday I keep to the point of we have unique features in Junkanoo, right? Competition has allowed one of those unique features to be almost on the extinct. And I'm not even talking to the point of fringing and pasting. Let's go to the back line. Because of the size of the brass right now, the unique Junkanoo sound in the back line as we know it today, is in danger. When I listen and when you go back to past parades and you talk about the past, we had distinct beats. We had groups that had its distinct sound. Now today, what do we have in that backline now because of competition?
It's not in danger. It's non-existent.
Oui.
Man, listen, Arlene could tell you, and perhaps Darren is old enough to be able to tell you that. I know Darren.
The small head will make you think you're old enough.
Be in Rawson Square.
Yeah.
And a group is coming from Frederick Street, and you know by the rhythm who that is. You ain't got to see nothing.
That's true.
Very true.
That's true.
And
That's true.
what caused that to change?
Well, and you hit it, when the introduction of the brass sections changed the whole dynamics of Junkanoo music.
Whoa.
One of the immediate things the introduction of the brass sections did was to pick up the tempo of Junkanoo. Junkanoo never used to be that fast.
That's true.
It used to be nice and laid back, slow.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why we could have rushed all day.
All day.
On a Labor Day.
So we've tampered with this thing over time, over a long period of time. We've tampered with this, and all of us, including some of us who are making noise but where it gone, are responsible for those changes to the detriment, including myself.
Let me ask you this: as we talk about changes in the music, and you made a good point about the brass influencing the speed of the music. To what extent, if any, you believe that people moving from group to group would influence or lead to that kind of sameness between groups? Is that a significant point or not?
Very significant.
It is influences. We brought the influences with us from one group to the other.
Yeah.
But
Because you want to remember that most of those changes from group to group were among the leadership of sections.
Yes.
and also the undertone, Ronald, a lot of the movement that we see going on is because they want to win.
Yeah.
And you remember something as well. Even every group had its, in my mind, its own color palette. You can tell what the Saxons look like. You can tell what the Valley look like, right? But when there was this cross connection between people going from here to here, they took, like Ronald said, they took their influences with them.
Yeah. Because you remember we used to say, "Oh, they Saxons colors, man. They using them."
Exactly.
Darren, what were the Saxon colors?
Red, white, blue, and gold.
There you go.
With a little pink.
That was it.
But
I could remember we all over the place, and I don't mean to keep going off topic, but boy, I could remember in 1965 when the Vikings bust out there with those hibiscus. Man, listen here. The people, the Valley boys, they look at them. They say they fringe pink and green. In those days, it was all red, white, and blue, maybe a little yellow, maybe a little black. Ronald, you remember? Man, when them green leaves and pink hibiscus roll out there, it was a shock. You hear me? It was a shock.
You've come to understand and appreciate just how beautiful that combination is.
Yeah.
Of pink and green.
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful.
But what this conversation says, is that it shows us how long these subtle changes have been going on, and we've been living with them.
Yeah.
Not only that, Ronald, I think what it also shows us too is that there's something like an intentional foundational structure that's missing from a lot of things in our culture. And what I mean is that even though you cross-pollinate and you go to various different groups, in certain organizations, if you have what Darren calls your philosophy, what is your group philosophy? Regardless as to what you come into the group with, you stick by what is our group's philosophy. And what we have seen is that a lot of organizations do not have that structure because their philosophy is just one thing, to win. And so they are just doing whatever it takes to win. They lack structure, they lack vision, they lack philosophy, they lack standards. And the only thing that is guiding them is to compete to win.
You know what just came to me, and what this conversation is saying more and more to me and emphasizing. Earlier, we started by talking about the language would have been, would have gone. And that has come about and become accepted because we've allowed it to happen.
Yes.
It's the same Junkanoo, the same.
Yeah.
All these things we're talking about, we lose and we've lost, we allowed it to happen because as the changes came about, never mind how small they were, and never mind how frequent they came, we kept allowing them to happen and adjusting to them, and they became the norm.
You know what? Is one word, Ronald. And remember, we got in trouble. There was an argument against it. Evolution. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Remember, we had this discussion earlier when we started talking about what is a Junkanoo costume, and this word evolution came up.
Yeah.
And now we are looking, perhaps we're standing on a mountain that's in 2022, and we're looking back at 1970, and we're saying, what have we lost? What have we gained? We've evolved, right?
How we get here?
How we get here?
Yeah. And I think the answer would be, to a great extent, I wouldn't put it all on the competition, but I would put it very generally on a lack of, I don't want to even use the word focus. It's a lack of direction. It's a lack of knowledge that led to a lack of direction. And we never articulated what it was we want in our Junkanoo to preserve and to keep. That's the problem. And so now we have a situation where people are entrenched because, as Ronald said, this is the only way they know Junkanoo to be manifested. This is the only way they know Junkanoo to be presented. And so, even with us talking about the financial constraints with the pandemic, people still want competition. They don't know where the money coming from. We don't even know if we can be able to import crepe paper. We don't know if the cardboard will be available. We just want to have competition, which will then drive everybody into a frenzy, perhaps to do some things that we will not be able to afford to do.
Boy, we got a phone call.
Let me go ahead. Let me go to the phone call.
Let's go to the phone call. Good morning. Hello, you're on Junkanoo 242.
Good morning, everybody. How you all doing?
We're okay.
Good morning. Well, thank you.
Morning.
A few minutes ago, when I heard the discussion, it took me back several Saturdays ago, when you all were having the discussion about the true meaning of costume with Darren at Brian brought up. That was Darren. And then when Arlene was talking about the original, when it was mentioned about the original Junkanoo, and that this brought me back to that time. Then the originality of Junkanoo is what we need to always maintain. We was talking about it even when Darren P mentioned about when he come with his tree and the fun is plastic and everything else. You know what I mean? We have to, I call to say that we have to, whatever we do, it is important that we maintain the originality of Junkanoo.
Amen.
Established, and how we could sustain the originality, no matter what changes we may make. Yes, and I agree that it has cost us over the years. I don't normally rush Junkanoo, but I'm a huge cultural part of the humanization and especially young people. And I just want to put that piece in there. We need to, as Barefoot always say, we need to go back. We can go back, but when we go back, we need to maintain the originality of Junkanoo, even though the intention is to move forward as we in 2022 and go beyond. At some point during our development, we need to find it in some way how we can maintain the originality of Junkanoo. My one suggestion is, yes, we can have a parade for competition, but then we need to find time and we can have parade just for those persons who just want to come and have fun. Those persons who want to come with just the newspaper. Those persons who want to come with the bush and so forth and the rest of it. This is where I believe that Junkanoo could be done, as all of us would agree, should be doing year round. We just need to find those times and we can have the competition for the big groups, have the competition for the smaller groups, but we need to have that parade to sustain and maintain the originality of Junkanoo. That's what I want to say.
That's a beautiful comment. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for calling. He has introduced, he hit the nail right on the head. The word is originality. We must maintain the originality of Junkanoo, and he is absolutely right. And you know, we have thrown out here the possibility when we were talking with the JCNP, and even when we didn't, we have thrown out the whole idea of a heritage parade. And who knows, in this crisis of the pandemic, this may be a time when we make a turn for the better. So that is something definitely to consider, because it would open up everybody's eyes as to what the possibilities are and keep us from being locked into these parades as we know them now.
You know something? The children rely on the vision of their parents to show them the way.
Right.
What do I mean by that?
Bastian, hold that thought. We
Hold
have
that
to
till
run
we
the
come
break
back from
before
our
the
break.
producers start cutting us and stuff. Folks, you're listening to Junkanoo 242. The show getting hot. Competition, is it more harmful or beneficial? We'll be right back after this break.
You saw Larry take the money off the teacher's desk.
Yes, Mom.
And you told the teacher.
No, Mom.
Why not?
Because Larry wouldn't want to be my friend no more.
Honey, Larry did something wrong and you need to tell an adult. You may feel bad, but it is important that you do the right thing. Nobody has to find out that you know.
Okay.
Small crimes lead to big crimes. If you see a crime, you can call Crime Stoppers. It's safe and easy, and nobody knows who you are. You'll speak directly to someone in Miami or Toronto, Canada. They never ask anything about you. So be brave and do the right thing. We all need to help. Stop the crime before it's our time.
Guess what, Mommy? I feel good because I told somebody about Larry and the teacher get our money back. So pick up the phone. No one will never call you a snitch.
Call Crime Stoppers Bahamas today at 328-8477 or from the Family Islands, 242-300-8477. It's safe, and the life you save may be your own.
Public service announcement was brought to you by Crime Stoppers in conjunction with the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas.
Examples of excellence. He was the first Bahamian to receive an athletic scholarship for a major NCAA institution in 1957. And throughout his time there, Tommy Robinson did his best to be home for Christmas and his beloved Junkanoo. A strong Valley boy whose son participates with the group today, this great Bahamian put the Bahamas on the track and field map, and over 15 unmatched years of international competition had given the Bahamas its first international gold medal and had represented the Bahamas in 4 consecutive Olympic Games. Thomas A. Robinson, Bahamian hero, this week's posthumous inductee into the Junkanoo 242 Shack of Excellence.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Junkanoo 242, and this morning we are having a, I guess you'd say, provocative discussion on so many things related to this phenomenon called Junkanoo. And I think right before the break, we started to talk about vision. And I made a comment, I started to make a comment about where we are now and where we've come from. And, I started to say that, the parents usually follow the vision, the adults usually have the vision to take us forward, right? And Darren, was you who said, we don't owe the young people anything. Was it you who said that?
No, he said words to the effect that it's not them to make, who should make the decision.
Oh, okay. All right. And that brought me to this it made me think of something. When I was coming up in Junkanoo, right? I was taught the way we do this, we start to cut paper.
Yeah.
Right? And some other fundamentals that I still use today in Junkanoo. Then I started to think, I said, now what if the guys who had the vision at that point didn't make that mandatory? Where would you be now? How would you be able to navigate this whole thing this map called Junkanoo? And it's true. It's up to those of us that lead Junkanoo at this point to point the way forward. But we have to know what we're pointing at, and we have to know which road we're taking.
Yeah.
Because we need to be very clear about what we want Junkanoo to look like in 5 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years. So we don't get to a point, and we have to assess where we are at each landmark. Because we don't want to get to a point where we are now and we say, Maro, if we had done this, we would have been in a better place. If we had taught the upcoming generation, hypothetically speaking, how to cut, how to do this, how to do the next thing, we wouldn't be having such a discussion about these fellas can't base.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that make our festival, our expression, let me put it like that, very, very unique.
Yes.
We have to know where we want to go. We have to lead the way. We have to protect the things that that define Junkanoo.
Amen.
We have to. And if we don't, the tail wags the dog, right? And we'll end up with something that we don't even know what we have.
We getting there fast.
And you see, the only way to guard and protect the heritage is to pass it on.
Right.
And if you see that it is being infringed upon in another means, then you have to stop it being infringed upon.
Right.
You have to speak to it. We have not done that sufficiently over time. That's why we are where we are.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know something, Ronald? I remember we were in 6-pack shop, and we had particular standards in that shop, from color coding to whatever.
If Uncle Babaloo was there, Bella.
I can tell you now.
Other than that, drum food.
Right?
He putting it on the fire.
And somebody switched one of the colors or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then Bubba's governor will say, well, what is this? Black marker. This is the wrong color.
Uh-huh.
Paint. We know that means? Paste that over,
You got to paste it over. That's right.
And you see, this conversation does not only apply to Junkanoo. It applies to manners and respect and all those other things that we cherish. That's why we where we are. Because we did guard and protect the heritage and pass the information on to the children and train up the child the way they ought to go. So when they get old, they don't depart for it. We respect this.
But see, Ronald, this goes right back to that initial point that Darren made. All of this, us throwing away all of our traditions, All of this hinges back to the days of slavery when we were taught to hate ourselves and to hate anything that we produce other than work for the master. And
Ain't got no
that is
value.
no value. That is the problem right there. And it has to, the mindset has to change first and foremost. That's the foundation of it. And then we move on from there.
See,
You
and
see,
what
I grew up in a time, Arlene, when it was a pleasure to get up on a Saturday morning and go rake the yard,
Yeah.
go sweep up the yard, go clean up the place.
Yeah.
Listen, you see this place today?
We consider that now to be infra-dig. That is beneath our dignity. We leave that for other people to do because we arrived, Ronald. You didn't know it. We ain't out there raking up no yard.
And as a result, the place looks stinking dirty.
And let me tell you something. If 2 or 3 young Bahamians got together and invested in got somebody to donate them a weed whacker and 1 or 2 other little tools, you could make a small fortune keeping people yards clean around here. You know how much these fellas charge to do your yard? And it's an honest living. And you can see the results of your labor. You build up relationships with people who come to depend on you and rely on you. There are so many opportunities that we are not taking advantage of because of our attitude, and that these attitudes that have developed over the years. But see, that's another discussion, because I believe to a great extent tourism has impacted our attitudes as well. You know, we'll be out on Bay Street selling something, but we don't want to do nobody yard.
Let me ask a question. Hey, let me say this first. If we do a good enough job, when people look at those people who are Junkanoos,
yeah,
and they ask the question, what is it about that person?
Mm-hmm.
If we do a good enough job, you know what the answer will be?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's a Junkanoo.
Yes.
If we do a good enough job.
Yes. Well, Darren, you know, we had a library segment on that because think about it now. When I was growing up, if somebody called you a Junkanoo, you ready to fight. Because it either meant you were behaving like you were a fool, or it meant that the clothes you had on, that you were rig up, that your clothes didn't match. Plenty bright colors didn't gel, right? And I always say that in our era and before us, we have changed the definition of Junkanoo. A Junkanoo now is somebody who will spend the greater part of a year applied to a task with the greatest efficiency and dedication and patience and all of these qualities that are not often associated with young people anymore, and on and on and on. That's a whole essay about who Junkanoos are. We know time, we can be to the gate on time.
It's meet the deadline.
Right, we can meet the deadline. And so the qualities of today's Junkanoo are very different from how Junkanoo was painted in the old days. But having said that, we still need to, what you say, Ronald?
It's good to be a Junkanoo now.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So now
we changed the definition of Junkanoo.
So then, what happened? What was done? What is it? What influenced the change in that definition? What?
Well, you know, I'll tell you, if you really want to be honest, a lot of that came about because of the competition, because you apply yourself to that extent, because you want to beat whoever else you rushing against. And a lot of that motivation has come from the competition. Don't fool you. Whether we like it or not, it has come from the competition.
But also observing it and analyzing that too, we had to look at the time of which we were in. We were in a time where, quote unquote, the lighter skinned people ran the country. They also ran the influences of the country. And so when there were certain newspapers who wrote a particular way about Junkanoo. You know, Nicolette Bessel speaks about it in her book. It was always derogatory. It was always those people doing this parade. It's always those people making noise in the road. And so my point is that there was always a sector of people that looked down on the dark people because predominantly we were the people that participated in Junkanoo. So we have to keep that in the front of us also.
I don't understand. How are you connecting that? I don't understand the point.
Meaning this. The whites that were in control and segregated the Bahamas and told us where to go and where we couldn't go were the people that derogatory spoke down about Junkanoo and a large amount. Hold on, let me continue.
Right.
And what has happened now is he asks what has changed. What has changed is that, quote unquote, the playing field has now been leveled to the point where as we can go in banks, we work in banks, we're managers in banks, and guess what? We participate in Junkanoo. We're also the office managers. We're also own entrepreneurs, and we have a bigger say in the economic pie right now. So right now, we're not going to let you talk about something that we actually participate in. So that is what has changed, is that the influences have changed. Okay.
Well, let me throw this big rock. Let me throw this big rock at that, because if a lot has changed and a lot has remained the same, we have created a festival that we can't afford, and we still have to go to businesses to sponsor our art and our parades.
Arlene,
and so that's a whole other discussion for another
and guess
time.
what? That's not a rock. That is a fact. And I go it back to the point of this, right? Jean just made a comment of saying, I guess it's how you look at it. Because of the competition, some groups are on the verge of becoming distinct because very few wants to join a group if they aren't competitive. And because of the number rules, many of those that want to join become hesitant because you can be disqualified. But on the other hand, competition fosters innovation and creativity that can propel you forward.
Absolutely.
If it's properly directed. But in doing so, a solid foundation must be laid down, deeply rooted, so it can withstand the storm of changing times. And I want to piggyback on something is that when you talk about something deeply rooted, you led to the point of saying that we need to focus. We need intentional focus. And the analogy where I make it is saying is that when we're in the early, what I like to call the early infancy of our Junkanoo parades, the costuming, whatever, I would say those people did not know what they had in terms of the value, the uniqueness, the creativity, how it was, right? And I want to say, okay, cool. Now we have fast forwarded. Those things that they were passing along, like Darren said, to the younger people that they did not even know they were passing along, I make the same analogy in terms of life. Junkanoo is a direct reflection of what we see is going on in this country. We have allowed things to just slip. Manners, respect, not checking kids on certain things. And we've done the same thing in the Junkanoo world. We've seen the criteria slip. We've seen what it takes to produce a costume slip. And my point is with that is that you don't look to the children and ask them how they got this way. You look to the parent and say, what did we didn't do?
Watch me throw this rock. We don't want Junkanoo. We don't want Junkanoo.
And your point?
My point is simple. You just said it, Arlene. We are producing. Well, we don't want our Junkanoo parade. We are producing a parade we can't even afford.
Right. Our artistry has outstripped our pockets.
But I mean, we don't want it. And it goes right back to my point. And at some point, we can be faced with this decision.
Darren, we may not own the Junkanoo parades, but we own Junkanoo. See, that's the distinction there. That we own Junkanoo. We may not be able to afford our own parades, but we own Junkanoo.
So, when the man come, and he said, got 58 million to give you all, I don't want no crate paper on this.
Drop the paper.
But
I don't want this. I don't want that. What say y'all?
Let me see you take a stand.
I say
what say y'all?
I say
money inside costs no fight.
I agree.
All right then.
Basti,
that's why I can say what I said.
On the way that we're trending now, you are correct of what you said. However, I always ask people when they present the problem, you have to also present what is the solution. All right? Everybody could come and tell us what is wrong.
The solution is easy, you know. The solution to that is easy. You get back, you being generally, you get back to doing what you used to do when you didn't have the money to do it.
Amen.
Then you would own it.
Hence we go back.
And that's why we talk about going back to being to its original state.
Hence we get back to Arlene's point about us losing culture, not on the stage, but on the ground. We have to be intentional. We have to be intentional about this on the ground, on how groups think about how they're going to get to Bay Street. And when we start, and that's with everything. That's with the money to produce costumes, but also duplicating the builders, the designers, putting workshops in so you could duplicate them and you don't have to pay for them.
I bet you. If when we get to the point where we can afford what we do, we ain't got half of these issues, but builders and designers.
I agree.
And hence we better get to this final break, or we ain't gonna have no money to continue the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're running to our final break, and when we come back, we'll have the news off the shack and our final comments. We'll be right back.
The Princess Margaret Hospital Blood Bank is in urgent need of blood donations of all types. Blood bank hours of operation are as follows. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The last donor will be accepted at 4:30 p.m. On Sundays, the blood bank is closed. Identification needed for donation include your NIB card or driver's license. Do not attempt to donate if you are sick or experiencing respiratory symptoms. Do not come to the blood bank in large groups, as we will be accommodating 3 persons at a time. For more information on how you can become a blood donor or instructions on what to do before coming to donate blood, please contact the blood bank at 502-7822.
And now for news off the shock wall. Happy birthday greetings to everyone celebrating a birthday at this time, especially Rhoda Jackson, who celebrates today. And in the upcoming week, Imani DaCosta, Myrna Wilson, John Weech, Jerome J.J. Johnson, Toby Austin, Agatha Marcel, Johnny Lee, Leon Williams, Anku Trey Enius, Dr. Bridget and Sophia Roll, Arnold Bain Jr., Ivan May Simmons. To you and everybody else that's celebrating at this time, a happy and a prosperous new year. Happy birthday. Our condolences are with you, the families of people who are grieving the loss of loved ones at this time. Our prayers and respects are with you at this time of grieving. The family of Thomas Smitty Smith of One Family thanks you for your support for the cookout last Saturday in aid of his medical funds. May God bless you all. The countdown, and it is Saturday, March the 5th. We are 41 hopeful weeks away from Bay.
Why you saying hopeful? The man done say we getting the baby game.
Let's go to Bay. Let's go to Bay. And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We have been all over the place this morning. We were supposed from beginning to end to be discussing the whole matter of competition and whether it is more harmful than beneficial to Junkanoo. And we eventually got to it after we discussed Bay and we discussed language and we discussed half of everything else. But here we are now in the closing moments of the show. And so, fellas, let's wrap it up. What have we concluded this morning?
We've concluded a number of things. I think we ended, this is what we concluded.
Yeah.
Then you can pay for it yourself, you own it.
Mm-hmm.
Until then,
we don't own
borrowing
it.
We also concluded that in order to protect and preserve it, you have to pass it on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And protect it.
Yeah, I think because I wouldn't say we, or in some instances, there hasn't been a solid foundation. It's in danger. Anything that doesn't have a solid foundation and also a mechanism for succession has a chance of being taken over and is threatened by something else. And what I mean is that we have not identified what it is that we're doing. Meaning that what are our unique elements? So once we know what is our unique elements, we know that is us. That is what we call our Junkanoo parade.
Well, stick a pin now. We on this show, we and the Facebook posse, we already articulated what we believe to be the irrefutable, the non-negotiable components of Junkanoo. Now we need to pull out that list, and then we need now to decide what we are going to do with it.
No, see, but also too, Arlene, we all
you have to get to a national position.
Exactly.
On that.
We also have to take, because that is so important, because that will be the framework in which everything revolves around.
Yeah, the point I'm making is that we have already started the process. We just have to decide now where to go from there. But we have already identified what we believe to be the true components of Junkanoo. And now we need to decide what the next step is.
Yeah, I think once we do that and we have that at a national level, there's certain infrastructure and mechanisms that we can put in place that actually has a succession plan and a mechanism that teaches, that highlights, that develops, preserves, and, all of these things so they can be passed on from generation to generation. You cannot tell the person this is not a Junkanoo costume if you never outline to them, well, what are the key elements of a Junkanoo costume.
Mm-hmm. And the same thing with the music.
Everything. So that's where I think where we are right now. It's critical that we do it, else we're going to be paying the price in the very, very near future.
Yeah. I to a certain extent, not to a certain extent, I completely agree. This whole discussion started with Rory's comment that we needed to use this time to fix Junkanoo, and I believe, I just hope that we are able to effect some change this year before we get back to Bay. I would really truthfully love to see one formal parade and one heritage parade. Personally, I think that is the way to bring the two sides of Junkanoo together, the formal side, the competitive side, and the celebratory side.
How do you see the heritage parade?
New Year's morning.
How do you see it? What does it look like?
It looks like, I think initially it might, to some extent, I wouldn't say look a lot like the formal parade, but I think it would be a process of evolving into a true heritage parade, because at this point in time, again, you have to teach what heritage is. What are you allowed to bring? What are you allowed to wear? And see, let me tell you what the problem is. This is the problem with Junior Junkanoo too. You don't want different parade rules bleeding into your formal parade. See, this is a part of the problem with Junior Junkanoo. And when I say problem, it needs to be structured, because we don't expect children to do what adults do. But you can keep the basic rules of a Junior Junkanoo parade like paper, so that when they translate into the senior parades, they are not accustomed to using other materials. Okay, and so with the heritage parade, we want to be very careful not for them to cause the formal parade to be watered down. And so, there are so many dimensions to this discussion.
I'll make the heritage parade the competitive parade.
Oh no.
I would.
I think that we have to be responsible, and we have to look at the dynamics of world economics before we determine where we're going with these kinds of parades. When you look at the cost factor that's going to be associated with these parades. The transportation costs that have gone up, the access to goods and services that have gone up. We got to be responsible and look at all those things before we determine whether or not it is feasible for us to have any kind of a parade.
Absolutely. Well, Ronald, you see, the Heritage Parade doesn't cost that great outlay because you basically go with what you got.
Listen, Arlene, let's be real. Ain't no Junkanoo in this country going with know what he got for a Heritage Parade. They can pull out all they stops where there's a competition.
Right, that's my point. Right, that's my point. I think it's an educational process over a period of time. I totally agree with you. People will, that's all they know is what they see on Bay Street now. They don't know what heritage means. And so I totally agree with you.
That's exactly why that should be the competitive parade. You know why? Because if you put the rules in and you say this is the material that you can use and you judge it according to the rules, you will change the way Junkanoo is practiced.
Yeah, you're right. No two ways about it. You are right.
Then go with if you have your traditional parade, go, no problem. Have that one. No competition. Nothing. Have it. Then you have an opportunity under the Heritage Parade. Yeah, we can make this competitive because we know this is our vision for the Heritage Parade. We know what we want this to look like. These are the rules. You can't do this. You can do this. You can do the next thing. Make that competitive. Compete to be original.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that because to me, heritage is celebration. I wouldn't put the competition in there, but that's another discussion for another time. Our time is out, Ronald.
Sound like somebody knows something.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, so fellas, closing comments. Let's wrap it up.
Anyway. This is my closing comment. I will have a competition for the Heritage Parade.
Okay.
Because that way, I guarantee I'm going to have an authentic parade. Guarantee.
Right. I see where you're headed with that. DF, what you saying?
Plenty leaf. Well, I would say that to a lot of people who have given up the fight for Junkanoo, who just saying, oh, things can't change, I would tell you that anything is possible and it will change. It's just up for you to do your part. We're on the cusp of where we're going to take this thing for the next 50 years, and it's up to you to do your part.
Excellent. Ronald Sims, you got any closing words?
I just want to reiterate that if we're going to guard, protect, and preserve,
amen,
that it is going to be important for us to pass it on. It's also going to be important for us to stop it when we see it and call them out and say, no, that's not the way it's supposed to go, and teach them the way it's supposed to go. Otherwise, we're going to lose it all.
Amen. Amen. And on that powerful note, ladies and gentlemen, we bring this morning's show to a close. We do trust that you have enjoyed it as much as we have. Next week, we are back with another exciting discussion. But in the meantime, this is Junkanoo 242, and it's all about you, wherever you are in the 242. And until next week now, remember, stay safe. Practice all safety protocols. We must be doing something right if they're telling us we could start thinking about going to bay. Practice all safety protocols and let everything that we all do prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we are all proud to be Bahamian. We'll see you next week.
Competition for the Heritage Parade.